Hi, it's Monday, the 28th of October, and we're here to look at, well, actually, astrology for next year, I think would be the theme for today. I've got a chart up which I can just run through. Let me just explain. This is Cleo, and when Cleo decides she wants to have a love, then that's what happens. So, so I'm kind of stuck with her until she decides that she's not going to have one. Okay, so so chart, yes, share. Right, I've got so many shares for you. I've got lots of interesting stuff to look at. Well, I think so anyway. So share that one. Right, there we go. Oh, I've put some dwarf planets in, so there we go. Oh, and also I have to say the video that I did on Friday. Thank you, Sally, for pointing out the fact that several times I said the Mars-Pluto square. Well, and then I talked about the opposition because I talked about Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn. And everything I said, I had an opposition in mind. But for some reason, every time I opened my mouth and wanted to say what the aspect was, it came out as Mars-Pluto square. So I'm not quite sure, but I should put that down to my approaching dementia, I think. But anyway, so I'm very sorry that there was that single mistake on it. The fact is that the information on it and the advice on it is exactly the same. That was good anyway, and still remains because that aspect, the opposition, get this right now, the opposition, whoa, and she's gone. You see, when she decides to go, she just goes. Um, the opposition between Mars and Pluto, very much engaged. I use a wider um, orb. An orb means the difference between the two planets and the aspect that they're making. It can be 1 degree apart, usually, but when it comes to these two, you have to go 2 or 3 degrees apart. The reason being that the power is so great that by the time we get to the exactness, we won't feel anything. To protect our souls, I suppose is the best way to put it. There is a numbness or a dumb note that happens, and only those who really kind of have the capacity to search deeply will be able to access. It's just too powerful when we get to the actual um, the exactness. You can't see it. You need a bit of distance to see something this powerful. So these are the days to be doing everything that I suggested. Okay. Now I want to talk about something else actually that came up in the UK over the weekend, which has really sort of stirred my interest because I can see this happening now. I can see this coming. The chart that we've got here, that's today's chart. I put it up. So if you're following these things, then you've got one to look at. However, I'm going to stop sharing on it because I've got some other stuff that I wanted to cover. And I will actually cover it by going to uh, hmm. First of all, let's go to this. Right, so if you remember this is the a table that I made up for the outer planets moving zodiac sign from this year, which is here, to next year. And you don't need to be an astrologer. You can just see the disruption and all of the stuff happening next year. One of the biggest moves is, of course, Pluto, which hasn't moved since 2008, something like that. And it finally goes in for the last time into Aquarius. And this is the zodiac sign that I'm fastening onto at the moment, Aquarius. And I also am looking at Uranus because as ruler of Aquarius, Uranus is also moving out of the incarceration in Taurus and into Gemini, where Uranus has a lot more to say, a lot more movement, a lot more room. And so the Uranian and the corresponding Aquarian energy are very volatile next year and for some time to come, but it's the change that I want to grab a hold of. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing on that. There is something that I particularly wanted to, here it is. I could put it up now, just a second. I'm just going to, it's typical when you want to, it's all so complicated stuff, right? Okay, share this, right. We had probably 3 or 4 of our big newspapers over the weekend run a story that you wouldn't normally see those kind of newspapers busily running. And it appeared on the BBC's news website. So I did look at it because I'm interested in next year. So whenever I see 2025, I'm thinking, okay, what's this about? So the headline here is, will the Gulf Stream really collapse by 2025? So just to explain, the Gulf Stream is a system of warm ocean currents that provides the coast of the UK with warm water that gives it our temperate climate. So we don't get the extremes of climate that you get in the States and in other places all over the world. We get a very sort of average rainfall. Well, actually, no, the rainfall, let me just put it this another way. Our weather is normally light rain. So, but it's warm. It tends to be warmer than it should be because of the impact of the Atlantic's currents. And this particular current, big one, determines Western Europe's weather. Now, what these scientists have, they've just had a big conference and they have issued together a joint statement saying that there is a worry that the current is weakening. And for long as we've had measurements of it since 2004, but they are now convinced, and so this particular professor, Peter Ditlevsen from the University of Copenhagen, told BBC News that other scientists had warned about the potential collapse of the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, which is called AMOC. Okay. So it has stopped before, and that was during ice ages about 115,000 years ago and 12,000 years ago. The reason that all these scientists have got together and issued this big statement is because they feel that there is a very real possibility for next year because in the melting water from the Arctic is interrupting this AMOC, okay? And so it's slowed and it's slowed and it's slowed and it's now poised, as far as they're concerned, to just stop. And that will cause, apparently, absolute chaos in the world's weather systems because, as we know, they're all linked. Now, we've just looked at the astrology, okay? And I could, if I was going to be one of these dramatic, well, we're all going to die next year, you know, those kind of things, astrologers, then I could go, well, yes, that's it. You can see it, can't you? I mean, if you look at, and I'll just go back to this, I don't need to, the table, all the activity for next year. And I can construct a case which says that, yes, for certain this is going to happen. However, and this is where I want you to stop, all right, and listen carefully. It's not always about the fact that something actually happens. the astrology can describe the fear of it happening in the collective. So if this story continues to get bigger, and it probably will do, then it's the collective fear and the anticipation of it. Now, I've been an astrologer for 30 years and I've seen everything from the millennium bug through to 2012, through to all these other things. And if there is any astrology which could be interpreted as being the apocalypse, then what it normally, the other side of the coin, the interpretation could normally be something like, yes, but this is the public fear. This is describing exactly their fears. And in that way, astrology seems to be able to sit on the fence. I want to talk to you about the zodiac sign of Aquarius for a moment, though, because I do have some serious stuff to say about this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cover something which has been very much a large part of my thinking for all of this year. And it's to do with the zodiac sign of Aquarius and how those changes, how changes, not those changes, how changes are occurring in this energy or this force. Okay. It's an archetypal energy in our dimension. But what has to happen as big change happens, astrology has to be able to describe it. We don't need astrology to tell us that change is coming, but we do need an astrology to describe it and help us understand it. So I have been looking at Aquarius with considerable interest for the last year because I sense, as I look at people's charts and I see strongly Aquarian clients in front of me, I can absolutely sense that they are hearing a drumbeat, a different sound, something coming from somewhere that makes changes to our dimension, our way of living, etc. And it comes via the Aquarians, those who have a lot of Aquarius and therefore can hear the Aquarian. It's like changing the melody, not the melody, but the chords. There's something, it's like retuning. So they can hear this retuning, which is allowing a bigger and more far-sighted interpretation of Aquarius than we've had so far. Right, I hope you're with me on this. And I want to go back to something that has stayed with me. And when these things stay with me, I totally understand that in the future they are going to mean something, and this is why I'm getting it and getting it and getting it. So I want to just talk to you about the symbol for Aquarius. So that's the water bearer. So usually a man on one knee pouring water out of a jug or something. Now, that's long been a ridiculous symbol for an air sign, okay? But, we've found excuses around it. However, I'm just getting a share up here because I want to go back to what the Egyptians, who gave us that symbol to start with, have in their mythology or their religion, the art that they left us. I want to look at the story of the god who is behind that imagery. Okay, so let's go here to start with. Okay, let's do this one. Right, this is an image taken from carving, and I won't bore you with the technical details, but if you do want them, I can give you all the different names, etc., of the different places I'm getting all this from. Anyway, so we've got images here from the Temple of Isis at Philae, and also a stele on Sahel Island. But what I want to just show you, the main point of showing you these is the god Hapi is here. Hapi has breasts which you can hardly see here, probably because of the smallness of the image. And Hapi is here pouring water from two flagons in his hand. Now, this is said to be mystical, it's magical, etc. He lives in cavern underneath all these boulders. These are intended to be boulders. He is surrounded by a huge snake, and he has a certain role to play. Right. I'm just going to, if I can, go stop the share for a second. He has a certain role to play in that he hears the waters that will flood the Nile coming as they make their way from Nubia and the mountains there. And as there's a big thaw, the big flood comes and the Nile floods all the way along. And this is what keeps the Egyptians eating because that flooding is when the land gets all the water and they can grow their crops. Otherwise, it's an arid desert. Okay, so Hapi is the divine personification of the flood itself, and he actually announces it coming. It is said that he puts his ear to the ground and he hears it coming. So he takes a really important part in telling everybody what is going to happen and when. He is foretelling the arrival of the flood, okay? So he has two cabins. We've just seen one of them. I'm just reading from some notes here that I made as I listened to my Egyptology course. He's about fertility, and he is very much involved with the river, so we could say a water deity. He is so important that the whole, you can see this, the whole of Egypt depends 100% on the arrival of this water and this man's ability to predict it because it means they're ready for it, I suppose. But so long as it comes, really. He's called the master of the river. He brings vegetation and he's called the one who greens the two banks. Okay. Now, he appears on a zodiac, the earliest round zodiac that we have, and in the Temple of Dendera from Egypt. Just before, well, actually during the Ptolemaic times, it's working towards Rome and the big Roman occupation of the Mediterranean. Okay, so I'm just going to put this one up now. So in this one, I'm looking for Hapi. There he is. So if you can't see this very well, then go to Wiki Commons. All these images are for public domain. I am not transgressing anybody's rights to copyright. So he has these two flagons and he's pouring water, which seems to be pouring onto a fish. So he's keeping the river going, the fishes going, the fishing going. He's got his breast there. And fantastic, right? So I've just stopped the share there. And okay, that's great. That's lovely to hear. And that explains about Aquarius and why an air sign has this symbolism. I take the water to be full of a very sacred message, a message of life, rejuvenation, the restoring of vegetation. So it's life itself, just life itself. Okay, now let's put all this together. If we've got these big changes in the zodiac sign of Aquarius, which we do have coming, we can see that. And if we understand Hapi to be a messenger, to hear something coming and to be able to communicate that to the rest of the world as they know it, then I definitely get it as I pull all these things together that the changes in the sign of Aquarius, etc., all linked. And so I then go back to this this story really of the stopping of the AMOC and the Gulf Stream. And I just think to myself, this doesn't have to be that it actually stops. Who am I? What it could be is that the drumbeat, the story of it actually stopping. We've got this, the energy of this in the pipeline, as it were. It has now been splashed all over the weekend papers, and it's. I think it will probably be just a storm in a teacup as far as the newspapers are concerned, unless this gets picked up by, of course, all the fringe um, YouTube sites and etc. And then we'll just see how big it gets. But anyway, I just thought that would be interesting for you to be able to just follow really, because I just wanted really to demonstrate how astrology isn't just going to describe the event if it's going to happen, it will also describe the news of the event, and then the fear and the commotion and the reporting and the general communication about it in our cultures around the world, communication, news, etc. So there we go. I hope that was sort of an interesting exercise in how this sort of stuff can work. And I shall no doubt see you tomorrow. Well, I hope I will see you tomorrow anyway, and I hope that was useful. Okay, I'm now going to go, if I can find it, the usual thing. I can never find it. There it is. Oh, bye.